Okay, story time on how I carried a baby for 38 weeks and didn't know. Yes, you heard me correctly, I didn't know. Before I get into a story time, just a heads up, you can bleed while being pregnant. Sometimes it can mean something's wrong, but other times it does not always mean something is wrong. And you can mistake the bleeding while being pregnant for a period. So I would have gotten pregnant around the time of my junior prom. No, he's not a prom night baby because I came directly home after prom because it was pouring down rain. So my senior year rolls around, it's time for cheer season again. So at the end of July, we always have cheer workouts, and then the first week of August, we have cheer tryouts. So I was tumbling, I was basing, and I was flying, like being thrown up in the air. And I was lifting girls. So I never felt like I couldn't do anything, and I was still like my normal self, like nothing had changed. And then I started progressively gaining some weight throughout cheer season, but it was never like huge. Like my sister was pregnant and she was like, and I was just like, looked like I was fat. So I cheered at football games up until like the 3rd or 4th round of the state playoffs, which went into December. I cheered basketball season. I cheered my last basketball game December 20th, right before Christmas break, and I cheered in the cheer competition, the state competition, December 7th, I think. So that would have been like 2 or 3 weeks before he was born. I never felt like I couldn't do anything. I never felt heavy. I never felt weighed down. I never felt like I couldn't breathe unless we were doing full outs. We ran miles like every week. We lifted weights in the weight room. Like I felt like my normal self. Like no excuses for me because I could do everything. So fast forward to December 31st, New Year's Eve, at 1 a.m. I woke up with the worst pains of my entire life. Which I do have bad periods and bad cramps, so I thought maybe it was like a bad period because I was bleeding. And so I sat in the toilet, and then I started texting my friends because it started burning to pee, and I was like, oh my god, I have the worst UTI I have ever felt in my life. So then I sat on the toilet all night, and then fast forward to like 7 a.m. I go downstairs, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm like having a bad period. And I hurt. My mom was like, oh, like just get a heating pack and then let me know if you still hurt. So I was like, oh no, I'm fine, like just go back to sleep. So she went back to sleep, and then around like 10 a.m. I yelled for her, and I was like, you need to come upstairs now. I'm bleeding everywhere, I'm cramping, I feel like I need to poop but it won't come out. And she started freaking out, calling all these doctor's offices, and then I kept saying I need to push the poop, and she was like, I don't think you're trying to poop, I think you're having a baby. She was like, so we need to get you to the ER now. And I was like, no, like if this is not happening, if this can't be happening. I was apologizing. My parents were like, just let's go. So we get to the ER, they take me back right away, and they're like, you're fully crowned and the baby's coming any minute. And they were freaking out. I finished off about talking about where the ER told me that I was about to have a baby any minute. So I'm going to continue about to tell you about the birth. So the ER tells me that I'm fully crowned, the baby's coming any minute, and that they're freaking out. So then they call for labor and delivery, and all the nurses come, and then the doctor comes from the doctor's offices, like right next to the hospital. So she's running, and as she's running over to the hospital, she's like putting on everything and like putting the gloves on. And as we're going down the hallway, she's like getting ready too. So in the ER exam room, there's at least 15 nurses and doctors in the room. Like all like the ER ones were freaking out, but the labor and delivery were calm and like, oh, we're gonna have a baby. And I was like, no, I'm only 17. So they get me out of the ER exam room, and we're going through the hallway, and my body was pushing for itself. I wasn't even pushing anymore. My body was just doing it because he was that close to coming out. So the doctor's going through the hallway, like preparing for a possible hallway baby. So then we get to the labor and delivery room, and I just like laying like this, I just rolled like that onto the labor and delivery bed because I couldn't stand, and I was just ready to get him out. So I was in the room for maybe excuse me, I was in the room for maybe 10 minutes, and he was born. I pushed through like 2 contractions, and he was born. That was probably the worst pain I have ever felt in my life. Like obviously hands down the worst pain. The ring of fire is what was the worst. As soon as his head came out and his shoulders came out, the pain was kind of gone, but it still did hurt. So after he was born, I got my phone right away. I texted Bryson, and I was like, I just had a baby, it's a boy. And he was like, what? So then he, like after I sent that, he came into the room, and it was so awkward. And yes, Mason is Bryson's son. So after that, they cleaned me up, they did the placenta, they did his footprints, they did his height and weight. And then after that, we just kind of chilled. We called family, we told Bryson's parents, which was he was worried about, but my dad did it for him because he didn't know how to tell his parents that I just had a baby, which I wouldn't know how to tell my parents either if I were him, because that's not something that you expect, and no one expected it. So then they came and visited, and this is the part that everyone wonders about. My sister and her fiance, after they got done visiting, they went out to Walmart and got a bunch of stuff, basic needs. Bryson's parents left, went and got a bunch of basic needs. My sister's best friend gave me a bunch of stuff, basic needs, and my parents went out and bought a bassinet. And that's basically the end of the story. If you have any more questions, let me know.
I didn't like to use my phone alarm to wake me up. I don't know why. I use it now, but I would use like an actual alarm clock. And so my first day of school, I used both an alarm clock and my phone alarm, like just in case to make sure it would work. And then it did work. So I was like, okay, cool. So then my second day of school, I like didn't use the alarm clock. Or no, I didn't use my phone alarm. I just used the alarm clock. And it didn't wake me up. And I was low power mode. But I woke up and it was like 30 minutes before my class was going to start. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to be late. And so I hop out of bed. I like quickly like put on my clothes. I like run out and I like go to the bus stop because I had to take a bus to get to my school. And then I call up my mom and I'm like crying on the phone because I was like, Mom, like I'm late for school. And it was my American Sign Language class, and I was like, and it's heavy attendance graded, and also like my teacher was deaf, and so we only signed in class, you know, to be respectful of her, to be respectful of deaf culture, but I didn't know American Sign Language yet, so I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And my mom was like, just write her a note, and I was like, okay. So I like write a note like while I'm in the bus. Finally we get to school. I like run off the bus, and because I'm running, I like completely tripped and I fell, and I like cut up my arms because I like fell into a pile of rocks, and I was like, no. So then my arms are like bleeding. I'm like dashing to class like a little nerd. I get to class, I hand my American Sign Language teacher the note. She like looks at me and she goes, like completely blows it off. Side note, I love that woman, but she was not happy with me that day. Anyway, and I was like, no! And so then I get out of class, I look at my phone, and then I had seen that two of the girls in my class who I'd only met the day before had texted me, and they were like, Kirsten, where are you? And I was like, oh my gosh, they care! They're so nice! And I start bawling again. Anyway, then I had like my Pilates class that I had to go to, but I didn't bring a water bottle, you know, because of all the chaos of life. And so I go to the vending machine to go get water. I have freaking like $2.50. A water cost $1.50. I put in $1.50, and the machine is like, oh, we don't accept your coins. And I was like, what? And it wasn't giving my refund, so then I had to put in the other $2. They didn't refund me for my change either. Anyway, I pressed the water, and out comes Mountain Dew. And I don't even like Mountain Dew. So then I go to the bathroom and I pour out all of the Mountain Dew. I refill it with the freaking tap water in the bathroom, you know, looking all set. I look up and I notice that my pants had been on backwards all day. Yeah. And then when I rode the bus home that day, I pulled the lever. Yeah, you'd think the story's done. I pulled the lever to be like, hey, I'm here. And the bus driver like completely ignores my pulling the lever. Like we get, and then I have to like yell at him, and I was like, hey, like you missed my spot. And he was like, oh, sorry. And then he drops me off like not even at the bus stop, just like on the side of the road.
Story time from Anonymous. So one day I was babysitting these two kids. I've been babysitting them for a while, but when I babysat them, I would just take them to the park for a few hours. This time the mom asked for me to put them to bed. She said that she was going to go on a date with her husband, and she told me that she'll be home at 11. Mind you, I was only 12, and there was a baby who was 1 and a toddler who was 3. I was fine with it because I really liked the kids. So I babysat them and I had a pretty good time. I put them both to bed and decided to relax on the couch. I was talking to my friends on the phone when I heard glass shatter. I freaked out. I immediately ran up to check if the kids were okay. They were totally fine. Both still asleep in their beds. I lived about 2 houses away from them, so I called my mom to come over immediately. I looked around to see where I heard the noise. Then I saw a man. I didn't know what to do. The man was dressed in all black and he had a mask over his face. He didn't notice me, so I carefully ran upstairs. I woke up both of the children and told them that we were playing a game and you had to be extra quiet. I texted both of my parents and told them that someone was robbing the house that I was babysitting in. They responded saying that they called the police and told me to hide in a closet. So I found a closet and hid in it. I made sure that the door was locked. told the kids that if you don't talk until I say so, then you win candy. I was on the verge of tears and didn't know what to do. Then I texted the mom and told her what was happening. She told me she was already on her way and that my parents already texted her. Then I heard sirens outside. I'm not sure what was happening because we were still in the closet. About 5 minutes later, I heard her knocking on the closet door. I was so scared I didn't move. I thought it was maybe the robber. Then I heard my parents' voices. Quickly, I opened the closet. I ran and gave them the biggest hug. It turns out the police arrested the robber and everything was fine. Let's just say I got paid a lot of money from the mom, and I'm still babysitting them. Storytime from Anonymous. I was in 6th grade, and we were doing a project for school. It was a group project, and our teacher assigned our groups. I really wanted to be with my friends, but instead I got assigned with someone that I didn't know. Her name was Alex. To be honest, I didn't even know she was in our class, because she never talked. I tried to make small talk with her, but she didn't really want to talk. I was totally fine with that. But since she wasn't talking much, we didn't get much of the project done. So I offered for her to come to my house after school so we could work on the project. She told me that she wasn't allowed to go to other people's houses and that we had to go to hers. So after school I met up with her outside. We waited for about 30 minutes for her parents to show up. Finally, after a while, her dad came. We got in his car and Alex started acting really weird. She seemed scared in a way, but her dad seemed so nice. That's when things started to get weird. So we got into Alex's dad's car, and Alex started to act super weird. Her dad offered to take us to get a snack. We both agreed and we went to Chick-fil-A. When we got there, her dad asked us what we wanted to order. Then Alex said that she needed to go to the bathroom and asked me to come with her. When we got to the bathroom, she quickly pulled me into one of the stalls. Then she dropped to the floor crying. I asked her what was wrong and she told me that this wasn't her dad. I was confused. Then she explained that she was kidnapped. That's when I got really scared. She told me that her fake dad was planning to kidnap me too. So quickly I called the police and my parents. Then I asked her why she couldn't have contacted the police herself. She said that her alleged dad wouldn't let her use any devices. He wanted her to be just like his real daughter, who had died in a car crash when she was little. So he took her to a new school and acted like her dad. I assured her that everything was going to be okay, and we waited in the stall until the police came. Then when the police came to get us, we saw that her fake dad was getting arrested. And we reunited her with her real family.
Today we're doing the story time of how this kid stole $3,000 from his mom and handed it out to everybody at school. Let's get started. Yep, y'all heard right. So it was around January 2020. I was working at this middle school. The middle school was like 2 blocks up the street from my high school. So I went there and I worked after school tutoring, right? At that middle school, there was a boy named Taylor. Taylor was not necessarily a bad kid. You know, he did his work, turned it in. He would get complaints every now and then about, being distracting or off topic. But other than that, he wasn't really a bad kid. So one morning, he was in his stepmom's room. Yeah, this was his stepmom's money. And on the dresser, $3,000 all in the open. I don't know why she would do that, but it was all in the open. And he had stolen money from her before, so I don't know what the thought process was, but Taylor took it, put it in his bag, got to school, and he went around just passing out money, like 20 here, 10 here, 40 here.